Let's talk about data structure. Like any other language, Dart also supports a few data structures like list, map, and set. So we know that we can assign a value to a variable, for example, int x equals 10, and we can only assign one value to this variable. We cannot assign multiple values to this variable. And if we assign another value later inside this x variable, for example 20, and now if I print the value of x, I think you know what will be the output. So the output will be 20. That means whatever value I put after the initialization, the old value will be replaced with the new one. What if I want to put more values in a single variable? In this case, we need to use a data structure, and the data structure I'm going to talk about is a list. So list is a type of data structure where we can assign multiple, or we can put multiple items in a single variable. For example, if I declare a list like this, so you have to declare the data type like this. You have to type list, and this will be the generic type. That means the type of item we want to put inside a list. For example, if I want to put integer values, so I need to provide int and then say marks, and then this is the bracket, the third bracket, and this is actually a list. So now I didn't put any value inside this list, and the length of this list currently is empty. And we have many utility methods after this list variable. For example, if I print marks dot, I can call a method called is empty. So definitely is empty method will return a boolean value, and it is actually a getter. So it is a getter property, and it will simply check whether there is any item inside this list. If there is any item, then that should return false, and if this list is empty, then it should return true. And now the output is simply true because we didn't put any items to this list. Okay, let me now put some values or integers inside that list. For example, 65, 87, 56, 99, and maybe 87. So I have just put 5 numbers inside that list. And this variable, this marks, is actually a type of list, and it's a data structure, and we can also print the whole data structure like this. And if I print this, we will able to see the whole data structure along with the bracket. So it is not actually printing the individual values. Instead, it is actually printing the whole structure with this bracket. And if you want to print the individual values from this list, then you have to use the index, because for a list, whenever we put an item, this item is stored or maintained with an index. And remember that the index always starts with 0. That means this 65 item, this number is at index 0, this is index 1, this is index 2, 3, and 4. So the length of this marks variable, if I call the length property, and it will definitely print 5 because there are 5 items inside that list. But if I want to retrieve any item according to index, for example, if I want to know what is the number that is inside the index number 3, so this is index number 0, 1, 2, and 3, and to retrieve a value at a specific index, you can use this bracket and just specify the index number 3, and it will eventually print the value at index 3. As you can see, it says 99. And whenever you retrieve an item by using the index number, you have to be very careful when you provide the index number, because if you provide something like this one, that means I am trying to retrieve the item from index 5, but we know that there is no index called 5. because there are 5 items and the index starts with 0, and the last index will always be one short of length. So the last index will be 4. That means if the length is 5, the index will be 5 minus 1, that means 4. And if I even try to print the value at index 5, which actually doesn't exist, it will actually throw an exception. And if you see that it says uncaught error, the range error, index out of range, index should be less than 5, and we are providing 5. So you have to be, or we have to be more careful when we try to retrieve any item by using this index number. Okay, so let's do something else. We have declared a list of 5 items, but this is not final. We can actually add more items to that list. And to add more items inside this list, all you have to do is call a method called add. So add actually takes an integer because the value type data type is integer. And if I add another value, for example 88, and then if I try to print the marks data structure, then you will see that this item will be added at the last index. So if I run this, and you will be able to see the index, the new index, we have the last value inserted over here. In the same way, we can actually remove. So we have the remove method. For example, marks dot, we have this remove method, and we have to remove something from this item. For example, if I want to remove 56, and that item, if that item really exists, then that will be removed. And if I now run this application, you will see the data structure, but there will be no 56. Also, we can check whether there is any item. That means we can check that we should return a boolean whether it contains a specific item or not. For example, we can call a method called contains, and just let me provide, say, 87. So we have 87 in our list, so this contains method should return true in this case. So if I run this application, it should return true. And also we saw that when we add a number or item at the list, it adds it is added at the last as the last item of the list. But also you can insert or add an item at a specific index. For example, we have another method on for list, that is insert. So you see that insert method actually takes 2 parameters: 1 the index, and 2 the item. So first of all, I need to provide the index number. For example, I want to insert another item at index 0, and the number should be 100. So currently at index 0 we have 65. After this line, if I now print the marks list as a data structure, and then you will see that now we have 100 at the index number 0. And once again, you have to be careful because we are directly assigning an index hard-codedly, hard-coded index, and this could be wrong because if I try to put an index that doesn't exist, then the same exception will be thrown. So there are other many utility methods. If you simply just put a dot after marks, and you will see we have a lots of properties and methods that we can actually operate on a list to modify the list, or even we can actually convert a list of another type. So we have this map method. You see we have this map function. Then we have the remove at. That means if I want to remove a specific item from a specific index, then we have the remove at, remove last. We have the last property. That means it will return the last item. We have the first property method that will return the first item. So I will recommend you that you actually play with these properties, call these methods, and see what what output you get. And there are some properties that you should not try right now, because some of the methods, for example, this map method, which actually requires another function as parameter, and this is actually a lambda expression, and I will explain anonymous function and lambda expression in a separate video that is coming later. You should not try with this method that actually requires another lambda expression. You can try with other things. Okay, and another useful method we sometimes use, for example, if you want the items in a list to be merged and as a string, then we can also use a method called, for example, merge dot. We have a join method, and then we have to provide a delimiter, for example, an empty space, and this join method eventually returns a string for final marks or marks string maybe. And if you print this mark string, and then we'll be able to get all the numbers merged with one another with an empty space. And if I run that, then you will see a long number like that. So all the items are merged, and if you provide a blank space, then you will see a blank space after each item. So this is actually a string. So we can actually merge the items of a list and convert it to a string. And also, if we have a string, for example, maybe we have a string like that. So string string name equals, for example, Flutter, and this is a string, we know that. But if we want each character of this string, and we want to put each character as inside a list, that means I want to convert this string to a list, and this is very convenient by using this name.split method. And this method is coming from the string class, and we have to provide the pattern, and maybe the split pattern, we see an empty space, because whenever or maybe just a non-empty space. So this item, this character will be splitted, and this split method actually returns a list of strings. So that will be final, maybe L1 equals this one. And if I now try to print L1, we get a list from a string. So if I now press run, and so as you can see, we get a list of characters that are inside that string. So we can convert a list to a string, we can convert a string to a list, and vice versa. So these are some useful methods that we can call after a list, also for a string to split. And I just showed that because it is somehow related to a list. That's why I just told you. I have just shown you because we use the join method. And whenever we have a join method, we use the split method to split a string into a list. So there are other useful methods that I'm not going to talk about right now, because to do that, to use that advanced method that requires a lambda expression, we'll first talk about the function, and we will talk about the function type and lambda expressions. Then I will come back to list once again, and we will discover the other useful, very powerful methods like map and for each when you learn actually the lambda expressions. Just like list, we have another data structure called map. Map actually works similar to list. We can also add or put multiple items in map. And the main difference between map and list is we can actually access each item in a list through an index, where inside a map we can access each element or item through a key. And map is often called a key value pair. So let me define a map, and let me just keep this list. So let me remove all the lines, and let me define a map. So first of all, the data type will be map, and in the angle bracket, I need to specify the data type of the key and also the data type of the value. So for example, the data type could be string and the value could be integers. And for example, or maybe the data type could be string also. And for example, the variable name may be person. And now I have to define the map, and in this case I'm using this curly brace. So this is actually a map object, and inside this map I can put multiple items, but not directly. Whatever item I put, I have to assign each item with a key. For example, a name and then a semicolon or colon and then the name of the person, for example John, and also the age of that person, and the age will be, for example, 25, and maybe the city the person is coming from, and the city may be London. Okay, so now you see that I have kept or put 3 items inside a map, but each item is put according or against a key. So inside a list, each item is put against an index, but inside a map, we can put each item against a key. So the key in this case is a string because I have specified the key as a string, and the value I should put against each key should be a string. And if you think that you can actually you wish to put different data types of items or value, then you should use different data types. For example, if I say dynamic, then I can actually put the age as an integer. So the now here the values are different type. So this is string, this is string, and this is integer. That's why I'm using dynamic. And sometimes we can also use another data type called object. And if you are coming from a Java background, you know that in Java we have a type of object, and that object is like a super parent of all classes. And in Dirt also we have an object type, and this object is like a parent of any other type. For example, we know that in case of integer, we know that int actually extends number, but number doesn't extend anyone, but we can assume that number class actually extends an object class. So you can use dynamic or object if you like. So this is not actually, it doesn't actually matter whatever type you choose for value. If you have different types of value, you can use dynamic or object. So I prefer dynamic. Okay, so now if I want to retrieve any value from this person, I need to refer the key instead of an index. For example, if I want to print the name of that person, then first of all, let me refer to the map person, then this bracket, and now refer to the key. And you have to be very careful about the key because you have to put the same key. So the key is name, and you have to use the same key. And in case you use this key, and I think this time you will see nothing but a null value, because in this map there is no value put against this key. So you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful when you use the key. So I am using the appropriate key, and if I press run, then you will see the value against this key. So in this way we can actually retrieve the value inside a map. Also you can print all the keys by simply calling a method called person.keys, and this keys is actually, if I press put my cursor over here, it says that it is actually an iterable, so it is like a list. So if I run this application right now, then you will be able to see all the keys that is defined in this person map. Also we have the values property, maybe, so person dot values, and in this case, if I run this application, then you will see all the values that is defined inside this map. So this is very easy. Just one thing to remember, that we have to use the keys to retrieve the values from a map. And also you can add another item inside this person map. So to add a new item, a new value inside this map, all you have to do is just refer the person, the variable name, and then assign a new key, for example, maybe phone, and then assign a value, for example a string, and this a random number. And now if you simply print the values once again, and I think this time we'll be able to see an extra value, and that is this phone number. And also if you want to print the keys, you will be able to see the keys, the latest key that is added. So in real life application or real-time application, we actually combine list and map. For example, in later module, when we'll actually work with the REST APIs, then you will see that we actually receive a JSON response, which is nothing but a map. And sometimes we get a map, a list of map. So list and map are used together in most applications, and we'll see that in later modules, or when we actually build our application, then we'll see many examples where we use list and map altogether. We learned about list and map, and there is another data structure that we use, and which is a set. So let me define a set this time. So to define a set, you have to use this set, and then also the type, for example int, and maybe say numbers. The variable name is numbers. And to define a set, you have to use this curly brace, just like map. Okay, but the similarities between set and list is the items are maintained as index. So I can actually put multiple numbers inside that set, for example 10, 20, 30, maybe 60 and 90, etc. So these items are maintained according to index. So here actually index works just like list. But the great thing about set is, inside a set you cannot add duplicate items. Inside a list or inside a map, we can actually add duplicate items, and list and map actually don't bother. So for example, if I add an item inside a list, for example, okay, so in this example I don't have to add anything, because what I'm trying to do is I wanted to add a duplicate number, but this list already has a duplicate number. You see that 87 and 87. So these numbers are being duplicated inside this list. And if I print this list, for example marks, you will see that we can actually see all the items inside that list. Okay, so we can see 87 for 2 times. But let me add a number inside a set, for example 60. So now inside our map we have a duplicate number, and you see that there is a warning that 2 elements in a set literal shouldn't be equal. It is not actually an error, and we can still run this application. And if we run this application, or if we print the numbers set, then you will see as output the duplicate number will be eliminated. So this is very useful in a case where we want to eliminate duplicate numbers. For example, we have retrieved some marks for a student, or some numbers from database where there could be duplicate numbers. For example, let me add another duplicate numbers inside the list as 56. Okay, so now if anyone tells you that you need to filter that list and eliminate all the duplicate numbers, that means you don't have to remove the duplicate numbers, all the duplicate numbers, but any if there is any number that is duplicated, that should be removed. That means if I print this marks, if I tell you to print this marks list, but only it will show the unique numbers, what will you do? So maybe the solution could be creating a loop inside this list, and take every item out or put it inside a variable, then check the next item from the previous one, and if it is duplicated, then we should not print that element. So there is a lot of codes that we need to generate. We need to develop an algorithm, but we can easily remove the duplicate numbers by using a set. So if we have some problem or some scenario where I need to remove the duplicate items, we can actually convert a list to a set of numbers or set of items. For example, we have a list called marks. Now I will convert this list to a set just by doing calling a method of on set. For example, set dot, we have a method called of, and inside that of function I need to provide a list or iterable. So I am calling just passing the marks list over here, and this of actually returns a set of integer. So now actually we have a final maybe unique number set. Okay, so now we have actually a set, and if I now print this unique number set, and you will see that we'll be able to see maybe I have. Okay, so now if I run this application, you will see all the numbers, but the duplicate numbers will be eliminated. But you see, you can say that okay, I had a list previously, now I have a set, but I want to have a list instead of a set. And also we can actually convert a set to a list anytime, and we can do that. That means we can actually convert a set to a list again by simply calling a function of list, that is list dot from, and inside that from you just pass an iterable, that means the unique number set over here. And of course this will return a new list, for example final new list. And now if I print this new list over here, you will see that the output, and this new list is just a modified list of marks, but there is no duplicate items now inside that list. So if you want to put items and that if that should be unique numbers, no duplication, that then we can actually use the set. And in such situation where we want to convert a list or eliminate duplicate items from a list, then we can easily convert a list to a set and then set to list. And in this way we can actually avoid few lines of code, or we can actually avoid a complex algorithm.